You're watching the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14.
Right now it's 7. Frigid temperatures and potentially blizzard-like conditions are here. We'll have how the city of Joplin prepares for weather conditions that we're currently experiencing.
And the Ozarks Drug Enforcement Team raids a Joplin home on a narcotics warrant.
And we are watching the freezing rain transition into snow. That's our tower cam at 7th and Rangeline frozen over. We're going to take a complete look at this winter storm coming up.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Thanks for joining us for the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. I'm Tanya Bach. 6 agencies respond to a manhunt and standoff in Cherokee County that ended with the suspect taking his own life. It started shortly after 4 p.m. Tuesday. Cherokee County Sheriff's deputies responded to a wooded area west of Baxter Springs. Authorities say 46-year-old Joseph Gonzalez fled after pistol whipping a woman in the head. According to the Cherokee County Sheriff, the gun jammed when the suspect attempted to shoot the woman. After hours of searching, authorities found Gonzalez hiding in a camper closet. Deputies say Gonzalez then shot and killed himself. The injured woman was treated at a local hospital and released. The Ozarks Drug Enforcement Team spent part of Tuesday morning searching a Joplin home. Commander Chad Allison said the team and Joplin SWAT served a narcotics search warrant in the 2100 block of South Virginia. Detectives seized what they call a large amount of suspected methamphetamine from the home. Commander said charges are currently pending against 2 people who were in the house. Now for our top story of the morning, blizzard-like conditions are here in the 4 states. And by sticking with us, we're keeping you informed of what's going on to help keep you safe. Amber Jenkins is live in Joplin to tell us more about what she's seeing right now. Good morning, Amber.
Good morning, Tanya. I'm down here at the busiest intersection in Joplin at 7th Street and Rangeline. I can see the snow is already forming. It's not much freezing rain. Now it's turning into flurries, and I can see the snow just gliding across the road as drivers drive. The good thing I have noticed, though, drivers are being very cautious. I have noticed that everyone's being considerate of each other as they're driving on these icy roads. By the way, I also spoke to Sheriff Groves in Cherokee County Sheriff Department, and he gave me some tips on how we can prepare and embrace this code.
One of the things that we see almost every year is people try to supplement the heat in their house with a space heater, and oftentimes there's clothes or there's flammable material around those space heaters, or people will leave them unattended, and it's absolutely dangerous. We see house fires every year related to space heaters. So if you're going to utilize them, you want to make sure that you're monitoring them and that the area is clear.
With this weather, space heaters are a great idea. Just be mindful of keep everything clear around it and keep an eye on it. We do not want any house fires because of this weather. By the way, I'm still looking at the roads. Traffic is picking up as people wake up, but again, I'm going to stay out here at 7th Street and Rangeline in Joplin, being your eyes and ears as we watch this storm. Tanya, back to you.
All right, thanks, Amber. And obviously the best advice is to stay off the roads and stay home if you can, but some people do have to get out, and I know you're doing something extra to keep yourself warm. You want to share that?
Yes, I definitely am packed up to the rim with hand warmers, and I definitely understand those people who still have to get out and clock into work even though it's the weather, but I commend those people, and I know how they feel. So, but just be mindful, be careful, be careful.
All right, thank you so much, Amber. Well, MoDOT and the city of Joplin have been prepared to clear the roads. KOAM's Jalen Banks has more.
Like many places across the country, Joplin will be receiving its own inclement weather. But the city, along with MoDOT, are ahead of the curve.
We're just making sure our equipment is good to go, double checking the plows for movement up, down, left, right. And then, of course, we're just making sure we got the staff ready to go, because we utilize not only our maintenance staff, but we have supplemental help from other departments, and we have emergency help from the outside as well.
The Southwest District of MoDOT will have over 20 plows, and Joplin will have 10. In a statement from the city for prepping the roads and removal, they said, "The city presumes there will be weather events in the coming planning year, so we order supplies well in advance of the wintry weather. Our crews and equipment are ready. and we ask citizens to use good judgment if they need to go out during the weather event. Hammond Link also says there are specific routes that MoDOT will focus on.
So we cover all the state routes, which includes the interstates, the U.S. routes, the Missouri routes. We do cover the lettered routes as well, which are kind of called our secondary routes, if you will. So when we plow, we obviously focus on the interstates and major routes first to get them to near normal before we transition over to the secondary routes, which are typically the lettered routes and some of the lower volume numbered routes as well.
Both the city and MoDOT make sure that they get their salt supply in the spring to ensure that they have it in time for the winter. In Joplin, Jalen Banks, KOAM News.
We can find information on winter safety tips, closings, and road condition resources on our website at KOAMnewsnow.com. Well, as the temperature drops, there are some places that are opening their doors for people who have nowhere else to go to escape the cold. In Joplin, those include Souls Harbor, Watered Gardens, the Salvation Army, and the Public Library. Many other communities offer warming centers as well. We have a list on our website at KOAMnewsnow.com/weather.
All right, speaking of the weather, as Amber alluded to, we had freezing rain light this morning, so a light glaze of ice out there. Now it's transitioning to snow. That's the MoDOT camera at I-44 and range line. You can barely see it, but it's there. High impact from the snow, the cold, the wind, and a medium impact from that ice this morning, which, by the way, the ice on any surfaces it did stick to is going to help the snow stick. Heavier snow now making its way into the northwestern portion of our area. More of it on the way. We're still looking at just 2 to 4 inches, but we have these winter storm warnings in the pink through midnight, and that's because with the wind and the heavier snow, we could see the blowing and drifting snow, which could create near blizzard-like conditions. We have wind chill warnings for everybody through at least tomorrow. Winter weather advisories for Kansas, Oklahoma through 6 tonight, and in Missouri until midnight tonight. And then we've got the winds. We're looking at winds gusting 30, 40 miles an hour, and they'll persist today, tonight, tomorrow evening as well. And then that'll give us the wind chills, which is hence the wind chill warning, upwards of -20 to -30 degrees between today and tomorrow. 7th and range line, 16 degrees, getting that transition to some snow now. -2 is what it feels like in Joplin. North wind at 22, gusting upwards of 35 miles an hour. Again, Liberty reporting a little over 300 folks in Joplin without power this morning. 4 in Yates Center, Iola, 7 Chanute, 16 Chetopa, 18 Miami, and 16 in Carthage. The wind feels like 16 below in Yates Center, 14 below in Chanute, and 7 below in Pittsburgh. KDOT, good portion of the state reporting partially covered or covered roadways. That's spreading into a good portion of southeast Kansas as well. So don't travel unless it is an emergency. On the Missouri side, also seeing the same thing. Partially covered highways in southwest Missouri from Vernon County down into Jasper County, basically along and north of I-44. So travel only if it's an emergency. We'll have more on this winter storm as the morning progresses.
All right, well, up next, 2 women whose families bonded when they were babies reunite 35 years after they both received organ transplants.
And later, don't tell Tom Cruise to jump off of a cliff because he'll do it. You're watching the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14.
In Health Watch this morning, 2 women whose families bonded when they were babies have been reunited. They had organ transplants 35 years ago when there were so many unknowns. And now 3 decades later, they are inspiring others. Stephanie Stahl has their story.
A reunion, together now as wives and mothers, something that was never assured.
It's been a long road for both of us.
Catherine Strickland and Anna Fishman had liver transplants as babies, a rarity in 1987. Their parents, who met at the hospital, bonded through the process, and so did the girls.
We were little, but we did form such a special bond. You know, it's such a unique thing to go through, and we kept in touch.
As children, they shared beach vacations, but ended up living in different states as adults, communicating mainly through texts.
It's so wonderful to have a friend who's been through the same experience.
They both have children now who met here for the first time. Catherine and Anna are part of the Transplant Pregnancy Registry that helps patients have families.
As long as their organ is working well and they're on medication safe for pregnancy, they actually do very well with pregnancy after transplant. So I think people don't even know that it's a possibility.
Here, together for the first time in 20 years with their families, sharing an early holiday meal at Philadelphia's Gift of Life House.
We're so grateful.
And their gratitude still extends to the donor families who made it all possible.
To make a selfless decision to save other lives, during their time of sorrow.
Living examples of the gift of life, these transplant patients are now lifelong friends. Stephanie Stahl, CBS News, Philadelphia.
The Transplant Pregnancy Registry has an ongoing study that is following almost 5,000 transplant patients through parenthood since 1991.
All right, quick check of our forecast. We got the winter storm warnings, winter weather advisories, wind chill warnings. Wind chills 20 to 30 below. We got the snow tapering off about 3 o'clock. Then will be partly cloudy and cold as we head into tonight. Still windy, -2 for the low. And a quick look at the 7-day forecast. We're only 11 degrees tomorrow, 20 Christmas Eve, 27 Christmas Day, 35 by next Monday, and up to 51 by next Wednesday. We'll have a complete look at your forecast when we come back. All right, take a look at our MoDOT camera at I-44 and Range Line. You can actually see a little bit of snow starting to stick to the ground and even to the roadway. We got ice buildup because we had freezing rain, a little light freezing rain earlier. We also have fog out there that we're dealing with. Visibility is continuing to drop. We're looking at a high impact out of the snow, the cold, and the wind, and then a medium impact out of the ice as well because we did see some freezing rain. Heavier snow slowly making its way into our area. We'll continue to do so as the morning progresses, and as you can see, there's plenty of it to go around. Now, we're still only looking at 2 to 4 inches of accumulation, but here's what we've got. We have the winter storm warning that's in effect until midnight, and then we've got a wind chill warning for everybody. The winter storm warning is because we do have the winds that'll be gusting 30, 40 miles an hour, creating near blizzard-like conditions. This color on this map was not there a minute ago. Give me just a moment, everybody. I want to just see exactly what that lighter shade of white is for as it's moving into the area. This is a snow squall warning in our area, including Wilson County, Woodson County, Greenwood, Elk. This is a snow squall that's moving southeast at 35. This is extremely poor visibility, as low as a quarter of a mile in heavy snow and blowing snow with wind gusts up to 50 miles an hour, making travel out there absolutely treacherous, potentially life-threatening. So this big white area you're seeing now is a snow squall warning with this heavier snow that's beginning to roll through the area. Now, in addition, okay, you can see it more clearly here, we have the winter weather advisories. They are for Kansas and Oklahoma through 6 tonight, and in Missouri through midnight. So this is the kind of snow we're dealing with and the winds we're dealing with, as they'll be gusting 30, 40 miles an hour. And according to that snow squall warning, they're seeing wind gusts up to 50. It's also going to put our wind chills at -20 to -30 degrees across the area. This is a very serious situation. We're not talking several feet of snow. Like I said, we're only looking at 2 to 4 inches. It's a combination of the wind and the heavy snow that's making travel and being outside in general dangerous and potentially life-threatening, as was indicated with this snow squall warning that's rolling into the western part of our area. And then with the wind chills as cold as they are, it could be very dangerous and, again, potentially life-threatening. All right, we've got the fog. Visibility in Joplin down to 3 miles. We've got light snow. 16 feels like -2. North wind at 22, gusting to 35 miles an hour. Across the region, Arctic air still creeping in. 4 in Yates Center and Iola. 8 Parsons. 16 Chautauqua. 18 in Neosho. 16 in Carthage. Factor in the wind. Now, this map has been a little slow to update through the morning, but we're still looking at wind chills at 20 below in southeast Kansas. KDOT reporting a good portion of the state with partially to completely covered highways, and that's overspreading into southeast Kansas as well. So do not drive unless it is an emergency, especially if you're in this area from, say, Iola, Chanute, Independence, Fredonia, Yates Center, Howard, and Sedan, where that snow squall warning is in effect. We can't emphasize enough how dangerous this particular system is. And again, it's not the several feet of snow. That's not a problem. It's only 2 to 4 inches. It's what's happening with the system as it rolls through. MoDOT reporting partially covered roadways roughly along and north of I-44 in southwest Missouri, and these road conditions will continue to deteriorate throughout the day. Now's the time. Scan that QR code, go to your favorite app store, download the KOAM Skywatch weather app. You'll have all the latest information you need in the palm of your hand in case your power goes out. We're looking at 6, as warm as we got earlier, Snow ends about 2, 3 o'clock. We're going to be below 0 for the afternoon and into tonight, -2 for an official low under partly cloudy skies and breezy conditions. We got a lot more of the KOAM morning news and a lot more on this winter storm when we come back.
We take this time to honor today's 4th State hero, Roger Marsh. Staff Sergeant Marsh served in the Marines from 1953 to 1973. We thank you, today's 4th State hero, Roger Marsh.
Mission Impossible? Well, no stunt seems impossible for actor Tom Cruise.
He is riding a motorcycle to new heights in the new behind-the-scenes video for the upcoming Mission Impossible installment. Jeannie Moose reports.
Whatever you do, don't tell Tom Cruise to go jump off a cliff, because he will.
This is far and away the most dangerous thing we've ever attempted.
Yeah, bet you say that every Mission Impossible. But is he really going to drive a motorcycle? Off a mountain? Oh, yes, he did.
Always wear my earplugs so I don't hear myself scream.
His fans are screaming about how insane this is. How many different ways are there to say, holy After riding the bike off a Norwegian mountain, he eventually opened his parachute. And though he nailed it on his first take, Tom didn't stop.
6 times today.
Cruise can add this latest stunt to hanging off a plane during takeoff.
Let's see it's a movie.
And standing atop a biplane. And don't forget scampering around the outside of the world's tallest building, not to mention rock climbing that most folks would have to have rocks in their head to attempt. For the latest Mission Impossible 7, they built a special motocross ramp for Tom to practice on. 13,000 practice jumps, say the movie makers. 500 practice skydives. At least Tom didn't break an ankle like he did when he slammed into a wall.
So this is from the side. Here we go.
We shot it with 3 cameras.
Oh okay, here he goes, and boom!
Tom watched the painful replay on the Graham Norton show.
Now anyone else would go, well, that's over. No. Up he gets, and he's running.
In 4 decades, Cruise has gone from jumping off a coffee table in his undies to riding off a cliff. Jeannie Moose, CNN, New York.
We'll see the movies.
That is pretty cool.
That's not happening. No way. No way. Well, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 is slated to hit movie theaters in July of next year. I'm not doing my own stunts. Not those kinds of stunts.
See, I would totally do that. I would consider being a stunt double, like if I couldn't do like what he does. Because he doesn't even use his stunt double much. He does some, but not much.
No.
But how about that? Like, oh, I'm going to work today. I got to get a couple skydives in, or I've got to do
jump off a cliff.
A couple of practice 13,000 jumps, you know.
Good Lord.
That's fun.
Well, we got a lot more of the KOAM morning news and the latest on our winter storm when we come back.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. It's currently 7:28. Severe winter weather conditions have hit the 4 states, and we've got you covered all morning long. Amber Jenkins is live from Joplin to give us a closer look at the current conditions outside. And good morning, Amber.
This intersection in Joplin, which is 7th Street and Rangeline. Snow is officially sticking to the ground and it is coming down fast. It's nice to see that the drivers out here are being cautious, and I've been seeing some plow trucks come up and down Rangeline as well. I spoke to Sheriff Groves in Cherokee County Sheriff Department, and he gave me some tips on how to brace this code.
One of the things that we see almost every year is people try to supplement the heat in their house with a space heater, and oftentimes there's clothes or there's flammable material around those space heaters, or people will leave them unattended, and it's absolutely dangerous. We see house fires every year related to space heaters. So if you're going to utilize them, you want to make sure that you're monitoring them and that the area is clear.
I'm glad Sheriff Groves talked about space heaters, because he also told me that they have plenty of house fire calls due to the fact that people have space heaters where it's covered with clothes or things are around it that catch on fire, or they're just not watching it for long hours at a time. Again, I'm down here at the busiest intersection in Joplin at 7th Street and Rangeline. Traffic is picking up as people are waking up, and again, it's nice to see that they're driving safe. I want to emphasize, drive slow, drive slow. Each hour passes, the weather conditions is ramping up. Back to you, Tanya.
All right, thank you, Amber. And one of the other things we've been talking about this morning is power outages. And I know in Joplin right now, there's at least 300 power outages. Are you noticing anything in your area?
Right now in Rangeline, I do see that at least the businesses have powers, but my heart definitely goes out to the homes that do not have power, because I understand that the conditions out here are crazy.
Yeah, it's definitely cold and only going to get colder throughout the day. All right, thank you so much, Amber. Well, MoDOT and the city of Joplin have prepared for whatever frozen precipitation hits the streets. Joplin has 10 plows and MoDOT's Southwest region has more than 20. Both the city and MoDOT gathered salt and other supplies long before winter comes.
We're just making sure our equipment is good to go, double checking the plows for movement up, down, left, right. And then, of course, we're just making sure we got the staff ready to go, because we utilize not only our maintenance staff, but we have supplemental help from other departments, and we have emergency help from the outside as well.
MoDOT also says plow drivers have pre-driven their routes in preparation for nasty weather like today. Well, if you don't have a wood-burning stove or a fireplace, you may need to think ahead to what you should do if you lose power in sub-freezing temperatures. KOAM's Carrie Worthen talks with professionals on how to stay warm in case of a power outage.
That is an indoor, it's still a propane heater.
Christopher Huffman, manager of Hingles Ace Hardware, says that propane or kerosene is great in emergency situations like power outages. However, you need to be cautious.
Make sure that they are rated indoor safe, because you do not want to build up of carbon monoxide in the house and face the possibility of a poisoning or anything like that.
Whether for flashlights, radios, or heaters, make sure you have batteries. If you have rechargeable ones, make sure they are charged.
I'm not sure about the electrical outage, other than I will keep battery supplied heaters and flashlights on hand, and candles as well.
Derek Crow with Carthage Water and Electric Plant says there is a possibility of power outages. He says anyone using a generator should make sure that there's good ventilation.
Being one, don't put a generator in your garage or your house. The next one is probably your wood stove or fireplace, using wood to heat your home. And make sure you have plenty of blankets and water.
You can never be too safe when it comes to preparing for weather. In Carthage, Carrie Worthen, KOAM News.
Crow also reminds Carthage residents to get CWP's app to alert them of outages. And as we've been saying, in Joplin, there's already 300 power outages. In Welch, Oklahoma, roughly 700 power outages.
Yeah, 700 to 800 in the Welch area.
And then Fort Scott
almost
is experiencing
900 folks.
almost 900 outages right now.
Yeah, there's a number of power outages across the region right now. We've actually, I'm not sure exactly why, but we've lost our camera at 7th and Rangeline. But MoDOT and the I-44 and Rangeline camera from MoDOT, you can see, as Amber was mentioning, the snow is sticking. We got some light freezing rain this morning, and that's causing that snow to begin to stick across the area. This is what our biggest concern is right now, is this swath of snow that's rolling into the area. I want to explain why. You were going to get into it. First, winter storm warnings. Everybody in pink until midnight tonight. That's because we could see the blowing snow in near blizzard-like conditions. Then in this blue, and for all of us, it's a wind chill warning until at least 1 o'clock tomorrow. We have winter weather advisories in Missouri through midnight, Kansas and Oklahoma through 6. And then we have this. This is a snow squall warning through 8 o'clock. A snow squall is a very dangerous line of snow. We're talking winds of 50 miles an hour. We're talking, with the winds at 50, visibility suddenly dropping to almost zero in a snow squall, and this is continuing to track on off to the southeast at about 35 miles an hour. So if you do not have to travel, simply do not. Winds again 30 to 40 miles an hour, wind chills 20 to 30 below. Right now in Joplin it's 16, the snow moving in, feels like -2, north wind at 22, gusting to 35. We'll have more on this Arctic blast when we come back. An Arctic blast bearing down on the heart of the country could disrupt holiday travel plans coast to coast. Airlines are waiving rebooking fees as a historic bout of winter weather appears to be on its way. Jared Hill has the latest.
Just in time for the holidays, Mother Nature with an unwanted gift.
20 below zero isn't only cold, it's extremely dangerous.
Freezing cold, harsh winds, and potentially feet of snow expected over the next few days. The National Weather Service has said the storm is so big, nearly 190 million people are under some type of winter weather advisory.
The biggest thing is making sure that we have the heaters and the electricity going so we can eat and cook for Christmas Eve.
But getting home for the holidays could be a headache for the 113 million people AAA estimates will be traveling over the next couple of days, most by car before the storm reaches its peak. But at airports in much of the heartland, a mad dash to beat cancellations. At least 145 flights into or out of Denver International Airport alone were canceled Wednesday. Nearly 200 more expected today.
We can only do so much about the weather, but we'll be able to see how the airlines respond to those disruptions.
Most major airlines have waived their change fees, urging passengers to rebook before the end of the week. A relief for some, like these in Iowa.
Because of the weather, we were able to change our flights to Wednesday, thankfully, to get out before the storm hits.
In Minneapolis, some caroling among the chaos.
Feliz Navidad! It's not worth it, especially at this time of year, to get all riled up.
While the weather may hold some people back, the sting of inflation isn't, even though the average round-trip flight is 22% more expensive than last year. Jared Hill, CBS News, New York.
Analysts say people are finding other ways to save. 28% of American travelers are planning a one-day trip. That's compared to 14% last year, according to Morning Consult. All right, our area, we're getting in on this situation as well. MoDOT camera, I-44 and range line. You can see snow sticking to the ground, sticking to the roads because we got freezing rain this morning. Not a lot of it, but enough that it gave a glaze for this stuff to stick to, making the roads very slick, very dangerous. Here's the main swath of snow moving through. This is a very dangerous situation out here. I know it sounds kind of wild. We haven't really had anything like this in our area. First, let's go over the winter storm warning. This is for the potential for near blizzard-like conditions with blowing snow. Runs until midnight. Wind chill warning for all of us through at least tomorrow afternoon for wind chills minus 20, minus 30. This is a snow squall warning, and it runs until 8 a.m. What this is we've got very heavy snow with winds blowing upwards of 50 miles an hour. So as you're traveling, visibility could drop to nothing in a matter of seconds. This makes it very dangerous, potentially life-threatening to be traveling during a snow squall. This whole thing moving southeast at about 35 miles an hour. We also have winter weather advisories outside of the winter storm warnings. Wind gusts, as we mentioned, pushing 30, 40 miles an hour, knocking our wind chills down to 20 to 30 below between today, tonight, tomorrow, and tomorrow evening across the area. We're 16 in Joplin, snow moving in, minus 2. North breeze at 22, gusting to 35. Arctic air settling in. Behind this, we're 3 in Yates Center, 4 in Iola, 7 Parsons, 17 Miami, and 17 in Carthage. We'll have more on this winter storm when we come back. All right, our winter storm continues to progress this morning. Quick reminder, winter storm warnings for the counties in pink through midnight. That's because we could see near blizzard-like conditions with blowing snow. Everybody under a wind chill warning through at least tomorrow afternoon for wind chills pushing to 20 to 30 below with winds upwards gusting to 30 to 40 miles an hour. Winter weather advisories, Kansas and Oklahoma until 6 tonight, and in Missouri they run until midnight. Then there's this dangerous snow squall warning. And that is with heavy snow, winds gusting to 50, creating near whiteout conditions. And this whole thing moving to the southeast at about 35 miles an hour. You do not want to be traveling in this kind of situation. It is dangerous. It could be potentially deadly when you get to those whiteout conditions. As we mentioned, winds gusting 30 to 40 miles an hour. They'll do so today, tonight, tomorrow, and tomorrow evening, which means our wind chills will be negative 20 to negative 30 today, tonight, and tomorrow evening with this system, hence why the wind chill warning goes as long as it does. In Joplin, 16, light snow building in, -2 is what it feels like. North breeze at 22, gusting to 35. Here's that Arctic air sneaking in, 3 in Yates Center, 2 in Iola, 6 in Parsons, 16 Miami, and 17 in Carthage. And you factor in the wind. This map has been slow to update, but we're talking those wind chills now in that -20-degree range. Good chunk of Kansas covered to partly covered roadways, building into the southeast Kansas area as well. Road conditions will continue to deteriorate as we go through the morning. Do not drive unless it is an absolute emergency. Same situation brewing in southwest Missouri. MoDOT reporting partially covered highways from roughly I-44, and this does include I-44 and north across the area. Again, travel very dangerous this morning. Don't go out unless you absolutely have to. We've also got power outages, more than 300 in Joplin, 800 in the Welch area, almost 900 in the Fort Scott area. Make sure you're staying safe. We'll have more on this winter storm throughout the morning, but for right now, here's Tanya Bach with Consumer Watch.
Holiday travel starting this week is projected to be in the biggest it has been in about 3 years, with AAA forecasting numbers just shy of pre-pandemic levels. That's a lot of people on the roads, at airports, and a lot of stress. Jen Sullivan has 5 travel tips from experts to make your trip a little easier.
Busy roads, packed airports, and a lot of stressed holiday travelers.
2022 will be the highest since 2018 and 2019, but not quite as high.
With AAA projecting nearly 113 million people will travel 50 miles or more from December 23rd to January 2nd. Here's some advice from travel experts to make your trip smoother and avoid the most chaos. If you're flying, expect larger crowds. AAA says air travel will see a 14% increase over last year. The first tip? Avoid checking a bag. Try only bringing a carry-on.
If your flight gets canceled or you miss a connection, it's far easier to get put on a new plane and be nimble if you don't have a checked bag that they have to go find.
Tip number 2. If you have to check a bag, here are some tips to avoid losing it. A lot of airlines allow you to track your checked luggage on their app. But here's another idea. Tip number 3. Take a tracker like this Apple AirTag and drop it in your bag to track its journey.
It's one of the better tips, especially considering the number of flight disruptions and the number of mishandled bags.
And tip number 4. If you're hitting the road, AAA recommends avoiding these most congested days: Friday before Christmas and coming home on December 27th and 28th.
Since both holidays, both Christmas and New Year's, fall on a weekend this year, then the Friday before the weekend will be a very busy travel day.
In 5, when it comes to saving on gas, Gas Buddy says a little bit of planning goes a long way.
Shop around, they could be leaving low gas prices behind, or the low gas prices could be on the road in front of them.
For today's Consumer Watch, I'm Jen Sullivan.
AAA estimates travel by bus, rail, and cruise ship will increase to 3.6 million this holiday season. That's a 23% increase from last year. We'll be right back with more after this, but first let's take a look at the market prices before the opening bell. Well, Santa Claus has a few days still to prepare before he heads out, but an army of Santa clones has already invaded Portland.
Ayo Elise talks to the artist behind what has become a holiday tradition in the city.
At first, back in 2010, Chris Willis would put his Santas on display with an address for people to find. Then things changed.
And then a friend of mine said, hey, you could put them in my yard. I didn't want to put her address on there directly, so I thought maybe I'll just leave some clues so people could, figure out where they were. And then that became a huge part of it. Putting the clues out there, people were like, oh, now we have to find where they are. They're going to move around year to year.
And now the hunt for the Santa clones continues. Willis says that this year it took about 3 days to set up the 400 vintage Santas.
And I like putting them out there. I enjoy seeing them all set up, and I really get a huge kick out of other people's reactions, whether it's nostalgia or bewilderment.
And to find a space, Willis usually drives around the city to find the perfect location and wasn't always able to find a spot. But this year is different. A property management company approached him to host the Santa Clone Army.
They gave me 5 or 6 options to look at, This one I loved. I had never set up in this neighborhood before. Loved the windows, and the mirror was the kicker. I mean, to be able to turn 400 Santas into 800 Santas, I'm like, let's do it.
So where is the secret location of the Santa clones?
Well, for that, you'll have to visit Chris Willis's Instagram and decipher the clues.
Chris Willis, not Chris Warner.
No, you don't want. I have an Instagram. I just never use it. So, and I'm not going to have any clues on where the Santa clones are. What I do have a clue about is our situation right now with this winter storm that we are experiencing. So we have winter storm warnings for the counties in pink. They run until midnight tonight, and that's because we could see blowing snow with these wind gusts that could create near blizzard-like conditions. On top of that, we have a wind chill warning for everybody through at least tomorrow, because we're going to see wind chills at down to 20 to 30 below. Winter weather advisories for Kansas, Oklahoma through 6, and then in Missouri through midnight. And then the biggest concern right now is this snow squall that's moving off to the southeast at 35. It's going to be in Chanute in the next few minutes. We'll see if they extend this, if they cancel it, or what happens, but it runs through at least 8. And that's because we've got very heavy snow, near whiteout conditions with wind gusts pushing 50 miles an hour. So we'll keep an eye on that. The winds again pushing 30, 40 miles an hour today, tonight, into tomorrow and tomorrow evening, which means wind chills 20 to 30 below today, tonight, into tomorrow evening. It is now down to 12. We were at 40 at 3 o'clock this morning in Joplin. Down to 12, snow moving in, feels like -5. North breeze at 17 miles an hour. Up to the northwest, 3 in Yates Center, 2 Iola, 5 in Fort Scott, 13 Chetopa, 16 Miami, and 17 in Carthage. And with the wind, we are already getting those feels like temperatures down to the 20 to 30 degree below zero range. All right, KDOT. As soon as it loads here, most of the state reporting partly or fully covered roadways from the winter weather spreading into southeast Kansas as well. So if you're traveling, be cautious. If you're in this region where that snow squall is, don't travel at all. This is dangerous, could be life-threatening. On the Missouri side, we're starting to see more partially covered roadways now, including a stretch of I-44 in Jasper County and Newton County. So travel just simply not advised today. We'll have more when we come back.
Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. Here's what's happening today. A joint meeting of Congress welcomed Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to the U.S. Capitol, where he delivered an address thanking lawmakers, President Biden, and all Americans for their support in his country's battle against the Russian invasion. Earlier, he met with President Biden, who pledged nearly $2 billion worth of defense weapons to Ukraine, including long-awaited Patriot surface-to-air missiles. House Committee is preparing to release a final report today on its nearly year-and-a-half-long investigation into the January 6, 2021 attack on the U.S. Capitol. The report is expected to conclude that then President Donald Trump criminally plotted to overturn his 2020 election defeat. It will say he, quote, provoked his supporters to violence at the Capitol with false claims of election fraud. And a massive winter storm is expected to bring heavy snow, ice, flooding, and strong winds to large parts of the U.S. It's threatening to snarl holiday travel plans for millions of people. Forecasters say the Christmas weekend could be the coldest in decades.
All right, we've been watching the situation. Winter storm warnings for the counties in pink through midnight. That's because with the wind gusts pushing 30, 40 miles an hour, we could have blizzard-like conditions. Wind chill warning for all of us through at least tomorrow afternoon for wind chills 20 to 30 below. Winter weather advisories, Kansas, Oklahoma through 6 tonight. In Missouri, they run until midnight. Snow squall warning for a potentially dangerous situation with heavy snow and strong gusty winds creating near whiteout conditions. That expires here in just a few minutes. All right, we're going to have the snow. Tapers off by about 3 o'clock today, 2 to 4 inches of snow. After that, we're cold. 11 tomorrow, 20 on Christmas Eve, 27 Christmas Day. 35 Monday, 43 on Tuesday, and then look at Wednesday up to 51 degrees. But again, do not travel today unless it is an absolute emergency. It is going to be dangerous. A snow squall is heavy snow with winds, in this case, pushing 50 miles an hour, which will cause visibilities to drop to almost nothing within a matter of seconds. And that's what makes it so dangerous and potentially life-threatening, is you could be driving with some snow and then you run into a patch of this snow squall and you can't see more than a couple of feet in front of you.
Yeah.
So
That's
just
scary.
do not travel.
Definitely scary.
We're starting to get to a lot of partially covered and covered roadways across the area as well, and road conditions will only continue to deteriorate as we go through the morning. And we'll have the latest on the winter storm throughout the morning, online, on air if it so warrants, and of course again today at noon.
All right, sounds like a plan.
Well,
That's
thanks.
it.
Yeah, that's it. Thanks so much for letting us put the good in your morning, or at least trying to. We'll keep you updated on the winter storm, and we'll be back with more news and weather at noon.
Have a great morning and an even better day.